Hi everyone to another stroke analysis with Coach Micah. Today I'm going to look at a so-called WTA forehand. And what that is actually I'm trying to debunk a myth. Many coaches say that all players on the WTA tour have big wind-ups. They have huge takebacks. They break the plane, meaning they take the racket back. If you look at a right-handed players from the front, they take the racket back so far that you see the racket wrapping around their bodies and you can see that racket to the right side of the body of the player. Many coaches then in the same kind of strain there are saying that the ATP style forehand is superior to the WTA forehand. And what that means is that ATP style is that there is less of a take back. The racket stays to the right side, if it's a right-handed person playing a forehand, to the right side of the player's body. Now, of course, if a player has a huge wind-up and is not able to make consistent and effective contact with the ball in front of their body, in front of their center of gravity, then by all means do look at the take back and try to shorten it up. But if you just categorically have heard, oh, an ATP style forehand is better than WTA style, then you are teaching style over fundamentals if you are changing a player's forehand. Of course, before I played Wimbledon or on super fast surfaces, we did work on shortening up my take back because it's fast surfaces, you make late contact, you're not having control over the ball. But if on all surfaces somebody has consistent and effective contact on the forehand and they break the plane, please coaches do not change that forehand. Somebody would have told Naomi Osaka, Aryna Sabalenka, and Simona Halep and Madison Keys that their forehand windups are too big. They would have taken huge weapons away from those players. So what I'm trying to do today is to show you that fundamentals can be there with various styles. And if Petra Martic does not break the plane, neither does Maria Sakkari. If two players on the WTA tour are not breaking the plane, then there is no such thing as a categoric WTA forehand. So let's look at Petra Martic, WTA 21 in the world. So I'm just going to let a few forehands of hers run through, and then I will pick out the fundamentals. So the first thing that you're seeing here, she's got great balance, great footwork, great adjustment steps. And as you're seeing, she's preparing her stroke, her right shoulder and her right hip come around. Right, so here she's loading. And what that does is hip, shoulder come around. We have the unit turn. What that does is it puts weight and force on your outside leg, the right leg, her back leg. And you see in a second how she's dropping lower into that load. So at this point here, you're seeing that there's no weight on her left leg. Everything is stored here. And she's doing a fantastic job transferring that weight into the ball. All right, so now you're seeing all the weight is on her front foot, almost none on her back foot. So that is one of the huge things, the proper loading of your legs, of your body, and you go from the ground up. You've probably heard about the kinetic chain. You're going from the ground up. But before you do that, to release that energy forward and up, you have to go down and back. And the back part is the hip and the shoulder, and the down part, she's really sinking into that left leg. Now, the next piece of the fundamentals that's really important is the lock-in position. And what that is, it is the butt of the racket lined up and pointing to the ball. And what that is, what that doing is, it is now, your body is now prepared to really fire the energy that it created, or you created, by loading into the ball. So this is called the lock-in position. Again, the butt of the racket is pointing to the ball, and she does that perfectly, of course. So now you're seeing here she's making contact in front of her body, and she's making contact between hip and shoulder. And that is another good fundamental. So let's go back. There's one where you can see it a little bit better, that she's making good contact from the side of her body right here. So if I can get that exactly to the right point, there we go. So the ball's really on the strings there. It's in the center of the strings. That's where you want it. Again, contact point is between hip and shoulder. That's where most people can control the ball the best. And you see that it's way, way, way in front of her center of gravity. And again, if we look at this forehand here, you see the great weight transfer. You see it even better. Again, here's the storing. Body weight comes forward. Boom. Now all the energy goes into the ball. And then the next stage here is the finish. You see that she's finishing pretty high because it's a regular brown stroke. It's just one variation where you can finish, but she finishes high and she finishes away from the body. It's another sign of great fundamentals. And then you can't see it quite as well from here, from this angle, but you see after she's making contact, her wrist is pronating. And when she's finished, the outside of her palm, or the palm, is finishing looking to the outside, looking to the fence there. So that tells you that she has really good pronation on that ball, or on the wrist, and giving the ball topspin there. So let's look at that one more time in slow motion, because I think she really has fantastic fundamentals. Even though she does not have a big wind-up, she has a very, very low wind-up. You see that here in a second. It's literally almost racket down and back, like we used to teach in the 80s or in the 70s. So there's none of that really big take back or higher take back. So let's let that run. Boom, makes great contact here. So let's look at a few more. Just let that run through. There's one or two more. Again, really good balance, good footwork, perfect timing, and that is your WTA forehand. So if you have a forehand like that, look at the fundamentals. You want to look at the loading, you want to look at the lock-in, you want to look at the contact point, you want to look at the finish, and the last little bit that you want to look also at the finish is, of course, I forgot that here previously. Look what our right hip is doing here. When she's after she's done hitting, her right hip comes around, releases. And that is as part of a stabilizing effort. It's balancing. It's the deceleration part. That is just a normal, natural follow through. The other point that I want to make is look at her grip. And I can't quite see that from here, but I would say it's between a semi-Western and Western. So it is a more extreme grip. But what that is, the point that I'm wanting to make there is the grip demands the swing path, and the swing path demands the contact point. So that is the style she has developed. Her contact point, her swing path is based on her grip. And obviously, she's got a pretty darn good forehand if she's 21 in the world. So that is a great forehand. If you have a forehand like that, do not change a thing.